This is the LANmark Esports and Gaming podcast. Here we have a few panel. We're going to talk about games, news, anything surrounding the gaming industry. We have some veterans that have been around video games pretty much all their life, myself included, so we know a lot about it. And I'm going to go ahead and start off. Right next to me is Jason Egan.
Oh, yeah. I was a GameStop manager for 10 years, playing video games pretty much my whole life. And that's kind of the most of it. I pretty much play everything except sports. Yeah.
I'm the same. I don't really play sports games either, but everything else you can count me in. Going on to Bryan.
My name is Bryan Craig. I'm currently one of the managers at the LANmark Esports Center. We've been learning about how esports centers operate and run since about last November. Been playing video games probably since Super Mario 64, so that's what, 96, 97, somewhere around there?
96,
so,
I think.
Yeah, that was my first console and been gaming ever since.
I'm Jag, or Jacob, whatever you want to call me. I'm a semi-professional fighting game player. I play Smash and Dragon Ball, and I've been competing for 3 years now, and I've been playing video games for as long as I can remember, since I was able to hold a controller.
Show your thumbs and move the sticks.
So we hope to do this maybe two times a month, probably most likely one time a month, just with everyone's schedule. And we actually hope that one of you in the community can join us every podcast, so we can have someone new, someone with different opinions maybe, that can just add to the conversations. But first off, we're getting into the fall season. This is when companies just lay out every single game that they have pretty much. So you have a hard time trying to play all the games that you could possibly want. But what we're going to do is go through the games that are coming out in September and October. We're going to talk about them, whether we're hyped or not about it, or whether it's just thumbs down and we don't really care. So first off, since it's already September 12th now, we had a few that have already released. With September 4th was Destiny 2, the Forsaken DLC. I personally don't know a whole lot about this. I actually gave up on Destiny after the first game, with how they were with their DLC. It was literally the potential of the game. Like, it could have been just phenomenal, and it was just terrible from how they decided that they were going to basically split the whole game up with DLC, and you had to buy like 5 DLCs to even actually get the full game, which was just ridiculous. I mean, it's been actually pretty much proven that that's what they did.
Right.
So any of you guys into Destiny, we'll go ahead and go to Jason.
Honestly, to tell you the truth, Destiny 2, I played it. The shooting mechanics are still tight, just like they should be. Bungie's always developed it really well. And you're right about Destiny 1, like the incomplete package, but I would say, like, Taken King is single-handedly one of the best pieces of DLC I think I've played in my lifetime. And it's kind of sad in the same sentence, because it's like, it took until then. And then really with this new one, I was like, all right, I played the game and I expected something different. I really didn't get a different experience from that initial onset. I have the season pass, I haven't played any of the DLCs. And Forsaken, I was just like, okay, so they're just doing the same thing after they said they were going to make a change. And honestly, I don't have the faith that they can do it. And until I hear something like as revelatory as Taken King, it's not worth my time, let alone my money. There's just no reason to put the money there.
Kind of the same mechanics, just additional content.
Well,
nothing contributed furthermore from it.
Yeah, and I mean, if you talk about mechanics, I mean, they hands down have one of the best shooter game mechanics, because I mean, they developed Halo.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it really is sad just going from Halo, how amazing that was. The developer was all about the community, listened to a lot of the things that they were saying, and now they've become the Bungie that they are. I don't know if it's because of Activision. No one will really know until years later when there's a documentary, I'm sure, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, you mentioned the microtrans. Yeah. You can get this book in 60.
Microtransactions. Sorry, if you want to see the credits, that's an extra $6.50.
Yeah, you're gonna get a loot box. You'll get a random chapter. That's all we're telling you.
Oh yeah, I mean, they shoved loot boxes. Well, not necessarily. It was loot boxes, wasn't it? Basically.
Yeah, they essentially did a loot box thing for your emotes and even like weapons and stuff. And I don't know what it is. I think I have to be pretty invested into a game, and I think the problem is they never really proved to me that it was worth it.
No.
I didn't feel that I wanted to continue doing this thing. I played through the initial onset with some friends, which is the best way to play it. Sure, if you got friends playing, but then after that, I was like, I don't
And
Yeah.
this is what's so weird. You were gonna say something?
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's not a game that you can play by yourself.
No.
For sure.
No. There's no fun to be had. I mean, you're not going to pay attention to the story, and the characters seem kind of hit or miss. And they did try to do something with it, but
Even the campaign felt like it wasn't more fun. It was more rage-inducing, and challenging more so than anything. It didn't feel like I should invest my time into learning all about the Halo universe. To me, anyway.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know.
The crazy thing about the story is, well, at least for the first one, because I got Destiny 2 for free, so I played the first couple levels. But with the first one, there was like no story. If you actually wanted to read about the story, you actually had to go to their website.
I remember hearing about that.
It was
It very
unbelievable.
notorious.
Yeah.
And
It was
then-
unbelievable.
Because
Like,
didn't they also have like a mishap with the first one? Because they had like Peter Dinklage as a voice actor.
Yes.
And then they like retconned all
Nolan
his
North
lines.
took over.
Yeah, like they legit took him out of the game for
I don't know why either, because it sounded pretty much the same. The lines were spoken pretty much the same,
Yeah.
at least in my opinion.
well, I mean, Nolan North is somebody they can get more regularly to do more if they wanted to. Whereas like Peter Dinklage, and even I can't believe this, Nathan Fillion got replaced out by Nolan North, and I don't think it was like, I think it was like a scheduling conflict. Like
Mhm.
Nathan Fillion actually wanted to be there,
Yeah.
but he just couldn't,
Right.
and Nolan took that. And I mean,
They probably made a pretty ambitious jump to try and get like a voice actor that could potentially be booked,
Yes.
later on down the road.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have like Peter Dinklage. But the thing
Yeah.
is, though, I heard that they really didn't utilize him very well anyway, because like there's like some sort of synthesizer effect to his voice, which kind of defeats the purpose. Because I think he voiced like some little eyeball thing, similar to that robot from Halo.
Yeah, what is it called? The Ghost, I think.
Ghost, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, from what I heard mixed things on like how they used him as an actor, which. Kind of
Well,
bullshit.
the way it's basically a monotone voice. He doesn't really put any expression at all into his voice. But
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's what the directors wanted,
Oh, yeah.
because Nolan North pretty much does the same thing, at least from what I heard. So
Yeah.
it's not like he's delivering
a
any.
subpart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever watched Game of Thrones and that whole like courtroom scene, you obviously know that Peter Dinklage, that guy's a beast when it comes to acting. It
Absolutely.
makes you wonder about the game directors, kind of,
Yeah.
and what they were thinking putting that guy in a position like that. They could have used him for any number of different characters that would have been like had more emotion or like buying into the story, but they just it was almost like a name drop. That's what it felt like.
Right.
We got Peter Dinklage.
Hey,
Okay.
publicity.
All right, Peter.
Yeah.
I need you to act like you're really tired and you don't want to be here.
All right, yeah.
6 in the morning and I don't want to be here.
What time is it?
Anything else about Destiny? Are we done with that?
I would say.
From the people that I hang out with, a lot of my friends, they've been saying that they've been enjoying it. Some of them have been some long-term Destiny players. So I
Mhm.
guess if you're into Destiny, it's something that you can expect to enjoy more of it. If you're not necessarily into Destiny, or if you're looking for this to kind of move the series forward, maybe add some mechanics, change things around, mix it up a bit, I don't know if you're necessarily going to get that from the sound of it, from what I've heard.
That's fair.
I'd say the biggest thing about it is it's just so strange seeing Bungie years ago, which would, in my opinion, were like the best developers, to probably one of the worst
Yep.
Yeah.
nowadays. It's just really strange. I don't get it.
Did Bungie hurt you, Brandon?
They did.
I
I mean,
It's weird to go from like an industry juggernaut. They were a console seller.
They
Like-
were. I mean, they were basically flagshipping.
They
how
kept
online
the
gameplay
Xbox
should be.
alive.
Oh,
They
yes.
also started
Hands
console
down.
online. Let's not even forget about like
Oh.
Xbox Live would not be what it was
No.
had it not been for Halo 2.
Which side of it?
The features were so far ahead of any other game. Halo 2 was.
Yeah,
Like,
because they had matchmaking. Like you didn't pick from a lobby list. Like I was so used to that back then. When you used to play games on PC, you'd pick from a lobby list, and that's how you got into matches. And they were like, "Oh no, we implemented this thing called matchmaking," and it was like,
Mhm.
what is this?
What?
I was so confused when I started up Halo 2 for the first time, but then when I got used to it, now if I saw a lobby list, I'd be like, all right, how many of these lobbies are hacked? Like, that's the first question I would have. Be like, I
Yep.
don't know if I want to step into any of
Mhm.
this,
and then a lot of times you just want an actual developer-made map, but you go to this one and you're downloading a ton of different stuff for this
Right.
modded map, and you're just like, come on.
I'm playing
But-
Halo, but the TF2 sniper is in here for
Yeah.
some reason.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Okay, September. Oh, so basically everyone's down on Destiny.
I would say down for the Forsaken
Pers-
DLC.
It's hit or miss for me because it's a game that I've looked at. It's like, I'd probably get it, but like if I don't have the money for it, I'm not going to prioritize You
Mhm.
know?
Get Destiny's DLC if you like Destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. That's
If
just
you're not already in the series, don't bother.
yeah.
September 7th, Spider-Man came out.
Oh my god.
So starting with, I personally won't play it until it's cheaper.
No.
It seems like nowadays, 3 months later, the game's half off or less than that. So especially with Black Friday coming up, I'm sure it'll hit the $30 mark, $20 mark.
They're dropping DLC for it too, from what I've heard.
Like already?
Coming very soon. I
I'm
think.
not 100% sure, but I know there is DLC.
But there's planned release dates for DLC. But yeah, it's kind of hard for like a single player story driven game to get a long lifespan because it's like, okay, you know, this game will literally drop off the face of the planet once the majority of the player base has beaten it, which, you know, you figure is probably within a week.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, it's freaking Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
I was watching streams of it over the weekend while we were running Game Center, and oh my god, it looks beautiful.
Looks phenomenal.
It
The
does.
combat looks so fluid. Like think Batman Arkham series, like fighting style. You know, where you have like there's like combo counts, focus meters, special abilities. You know, it just like everything that you could want from like fluid Spider-Man, superhero combat, just done excellent. So
You know, and I've heard from several sources, like people that have already beaten it and platinumed it, that it's bar none the game of the year so far. Like,
That's a bold statement considering God of War.
Yeah, exactly.
And Red Dead is
Exactly.
on the horizon, but
in Fallout, and like
Yeah.
there are several people who I have talked to who have said this game is better than God of War. This game is better than this. This game is better. Yeah, this is bar none the game of the year.
it's better than Boy Simulator.
And then, huh?
Boy Simulator.
Of course.
Boy.
but no, I mean it's
More
the same
cash.
people that made Sunset Overdrive. I don't know if you guys played that at
Definitely.
all, but
yeah, it was
the-
good.
It was, and you know, I will say, I mean, the two-ness of it was kind of a little overboard, but like the movement system, the combat system, when you adjusted into it, oh my god, that game is just an addictive ride to the end. And I honestly, I was surprised I didn't play it until like kind of like a year or two after it had already been out, but it was good.
I never finished it, but yeah, it was definitely a great game.
Yeah,
I personally don't know how long the life of Spider-Man will last, but I mean, talking about single-player games, Skyrim is still relevant, but that's because of its developers as well. But
Yeah.
I think it's also the difference in gameplay. You have so much decision and player
Right.
agency to like make choices and make different stories throughout it. Whereas like Spider-Man's kind of going to be that ride through. I could definitely see a sequel. That will for certain happen, but I agree with Pence. I didn't want to spend 60 on it. I know
That's
that
fair.
it's going to be 30 or 20.
Mhm.
I said 20 was my price point, and then the person I PlayStation share with was like, I might get Spider-Man. I'm like, you should. I mean, you should definitely
You know,
get it. You should really get
I
it.
certainly wouldn't be upset if you bought
God,
Spider-Man.
I would be okay with this.
Yeah.
I
make
mean,
it on PC and Xbox.
yeah.
I really wish they would. I mean, I can understand because this particular Spider-Man is still under Sony, like
Yeah.
because I know
Yeah,
Sony
for the
owns
licensing.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Because Sony owns the rights for Spider-Man, at least for like certain.
I mean, Sunset Overdrive didn't come out on other things. I could see them being like, hey, we're going to sign the exclusive. And I think I'm okay with console exclusives to a degree. I get that Spider-Man's, more spread out and more known across all consoles. But, I mean, hey, maybe the first one's this way. Maybe the second one, Microsoft says, hey, we'll help,
Right.
fund, or
Yeah.
we want you to come over as well.
It's all right if
You could
you
see.
know, PlayStation has it. So,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it definitely it looks fantastic. I would love to get it. I think are we going to be getting copies of that?
I would think so.
Yeah. I mean, probably wait for the price to come down.
Yeah, just a little bit probably. So yeah, I think we're all set on Spider-Man being a good game. And
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah,
probably
I
definitely
really
buy.
want to play it.
It looks phenomenal, and I look forward to actually playing it. September 7th, also, which I'm sure none of us care about, NBA 2K19.
What do you mean? I care about the fact that they still have microtransactions. I've been watching nonstop
Oh.
videos on like how bad they're like. I can't believe they're still gonna do it. Like,
It's because people buy them. That's why.
but I've
People
heard
buy them.
EA is stepping up their game. Like, I mean, I know they still won't replace it. No. I know that sounds weird. That sounds
EA
weird.
is
But
like
yeah,
bet.
yeah. I mean, I still don't think they'll take over. But if EA just skips out on doing any microtransaction in their basketball game and they at least make it better than the previous year, I've heard people that left 2K last year, not a significant number, mind you, but hey, that's all it starts to take. 2K was not the ruling basketball game, and then 2K12 came out, or no, 10. It might have been 9. Sorry, I was working at GameStop when this happened, and I remember people going, "I'm done with NBA. I'm never playing another one. I'm going to 2K." And it just skyrocketed.
Which I actually think NBA Live comes out the same day. Actually, I don't have it on here, but I'm pretty sure that they released the same day.
Split your
So.
player base.
All they'd have to do is come out at like $20 cheaper, and I mean, if it's a slightly better game, it doesn't have microtransactions.
And I remember the 2K games actually coming down at a lower price point. I think it was like $20 or $30. The 2K games. This was probably back in 2007, 6.
Yeah, they actually did come out at $40 up until I think 2K10, which was a full like $60 release because at that point they didn't care. They're like, no, we already have them, you know, and they were just
hooked on our 2K.
Oh, dude, it was the craziest takeover I've actually ever seen in a game series. For like, because you see transitions in shooters and other games and stuff like that, but like just being in that moment, seeing like people come in and literally trading in their copies, canceling their reservations, and moving over to 2K, and it's one of those things where I think they, just like EA did back then, you know, we're seeing this recycle of like they're taking advantage of the consumer. And the consumer is not going to stick, you know. So I think 2K is kind of, I don't know. I think they got to tiptoe the line, and certainly by the next one, they've got to address it somehow, you know. Otherwise, they could lose out, maybe, you know.
I know one of my buddies on Facebook. Actually, he's like pretty into 2K, and he likes a lot of the shooting mechanics that have changed, and he says it'll expose a lot of people. It's like they have this layup meter now, or something like that, where like you have to hit a certain point on the layup to make it in, which is more skill.
Okay, so
know?
like a little more skill play versus like.
Almost like a layup, almost like a guaranteed or like an RNG sort of thing.
Right.
Previously. Okay, I can see that.
So he says, "Oh yeah, it's going to expose some of you guys, so you know."
Yeah.
So it's been getting positive reviews.
No, I've talked to people, and it sounds like that is. I just kind of wonder because they've gone really hard on that stuff, and it's you know, the public opinion around this right now is really bad, you know, for it, and it's just one of those things where like I've heard that the skill shots and stuff are good, and it does play good. I've heard that My Neighborhood. I talked to a guy who was playing a few days earlier. He said he expected it to be glitched and not working because I mean, how many lobby systems have we seen break down over the past year? But he said no, loaded up fine. And everybody was there, just like, you know, that kind of, it's like the shared space like Destiny does or Call of Duty doing and stuff like that. So.
Okay. Well, what do your friends that play this say about the microtransactions?
What are they offering in terms of microtransactions?
Yeah.
Honestly, like I haven't looked hardcore into it or anything because I really don't care about the game. But just from
it's like stat boosting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like basically pay to win.
Oh.
Yeah,
Pay to win.
It's direct stat boosting. Like you actually pay for your stat points.
Yeah, unbelievable. Like
you can earn it, but not as fast.
No.
Yeah.
It's got that EA, you know, skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pay to win.
It's like you'll get to level 3 just fine. You want to go to level 16. It's like, well, you got 6 months.
I have got to tell you, man, and not to even diverge this, like Battlefront 2, what an amazing game, and then just terrible, like what they did to that. It actually plays so good. And I can't play it anymore. Even after they redid the system, it actually is even a little worse. And I was like,
Really?
dude, it is, because the progression, like the problem is that they let you keep the cards that you unlock. And I unlocked cards later down the road. So nothing I'm going to earn from now on is going to matter. It's just like, well, I already got some of the best things from opening packs and getting a random chance. And now you have a progression system that's really, I mean, extremely grindy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It just feels like there's not a, like...
Because doesn't it just play with the numbers a little bit? Like, oh, hey, look, it's not 30 million credits, it's like 300. That you get like 1 credit a day or something.
They've lied so many times on that game. I don't understand. Literally at this point, I could go into Battlefield 5 and talk about that for an hour, but it'll just make me too mad. But the amount of games that they're just totally screwing up, I literally don't know how they're still in business. How predatory they are. Just all these anti-consumer ways that they do with their games.
Is EA with Battlefield as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing, is like, we've all got accustomed to DLC, and I remember when that started coming around, a lot of people were upset because it's like, hey, we were used to paying one price for a game. And we've all gotten used to the idea of like, yes, there's an entry value, and sometimes it is, you know, DLC for like multiplayer stuff. I've actually been okay with that, And some story DLC, if the game is fully fleshed out, like you have your Fallout 3.
There's always been
Fallout
expansions.
3's DLC was the game that really got me introduced into DLC.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was fantastic.
Yes,
But it
I
was-
mean, because it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that's honestly, that's basically an expansion. I mean, back in the 90s,
yeah.
they had expansions for games too,
Yeah.
mostly just on PC.
Right.
But you were willing to pay that because it was such a ginormous amount of content.
Mhm.
Nowadays, it's just a tiny microtransaction for $4 to get a new shirt or to get a stat
We
boost,
talk
or
about my Fortnite skins make me good.
which I understand that though because the game's free, so I can understand
Yeah. I mean, that's
paying
the
for
lifeblood
cosmetic
of it.
items. But that's a different story. But this is literally you're paying $60, then you're paying extra money to buy a shirt, to buy a stat boost, to buy this,
Right.
which is unacceptable, especially
Yeah.
at a
I
$60
think
game.
If there's anything that is like some sort of stat changing item, then it's
Mhm.
like, no, that's
Well,
not.
I know WoW does, like, you can buy level 70 straight out, or
Yeah,
level whatever straight
Yeah,
out,
you
right?
can buy like to a certain amount because they want to try and keep people interested. They're like, oh man, I could get back into WoW, but I don't really want to like
Right.
make this new character and level it all the way back up. Granted, I mean, over the years with WoW, they've drastically cut like the time it takes to level,
Oh, yeah.
you know, first to 60 and then to like
I mean,
110.
the also big difference with WoW is that it's cooperative versus competitive. You know,
That is
when you're
true.
talking about stat boosting in a co-op game, I mean, I don't care if my buddy wants to spend money so that we can get through something faster.
Yeah.
But I mean, if he wants to kill me faster, that's a bit different. It's just different because esports, you know, as it is.
Right.
Like we can't have these things that kind of muddy the water. You know, like, and then you're gonna have to. Oh
How
my
much is
God.
Bayonetta in Smash?
$5.99.
All right.
I mean, at least in that case, they did some work to make a character. You know, I'll give them that. all day. I mean, it's not as bad as Street Fighter, where they're like, you could earn the. I don't know.
Not
We
a
could
good-
be on this topic.
Oh,
For
yeah,
the
we
entire-
definitely could because I have very strong opinions on it too.
Wow.
Yeah.
God.
But
I guess we'll continue on just so we can get through this. But I'm down. No NBA. I think everyone
yeah,
else is. No.
I have no interest in NBA games.
Sure, some of the viewers do, but none of us do, just because of a lot of, I'm sure, the predatory practices of microtransactions. Which, if those were gone, I'm sure it'd be a good game.
I just want to add in one last point. I am surprised that they're still able to add new content at this point. Like, that just surprises me.
Mhm.
Because when we have a well fleshed out game they've had for, I don't know, a decade or so, like, adding new content can be rough. So, like, I mean, they're still able to add new content. So that's what surprises me the most.
Mhm.
But other than that, I mean, it's 2K.
Yeah. September 12th, today, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. What does everyone think?
I've heard really hit and miss things about it. I've heard
You've actually had people play it, or
I-
just previews on YouTube of
I-
people playing it?
I
was
know
watching some people
somebody
stream yesterday.
who actually works here. His name is Robert. He actually said he was going to buy the game last night,
Mhm.
and he was going to play it. But to me, it just looks like another Tomb Raider game with a more pretty picture.
Mhm.
That's what it looks like to me. I mean, it's Tomb Raider. There's more, there's stealth.
I didn't play the last one, but I mean, I think I did see that there was some pretty interesting stealth gameplay, and I think like I am okay with games that you can have a stealth game and you can keep making new ones because it's almost like a new map in a new scenario is completely different. So if you have a campaign where you can just be like, okay, well, let's make them sneak around and do this, I think that's ultimately acceptable because I don't know about in terms of story, like how strong it'll be.
Right.
But I think it at least has something to offer each time. It's almost like with the Metal Gear games. I mean, like as long as you make updates to like your mechanics, your engine, make it nice, make it run smooth, make it glitch free. I think that you can get a lot of gameplay out of stealth. I mean, heck, look at Skyrim has a stealth mechanic too. I mean, if you want to do something stealthily, it's fun. Like making you take your time and make decisions instead of just run and gun, in every scenario. There's an appeal to it.
But I do like games that give you the option for stealth.
Yes.
If they give you the option, then you can go gun ho, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No, I would say that after playing the first one of the reboot, which was a phenomenal game, really, like in terms of like how they changed it up.
I beat it too.
Yeah, it was a really fun game, and then the second one, I was excited. I just felt that the mechanic of the halfway open areas and stuff just didn't really feel fully like thought out. You know, it didn't feel fun or fluid in a way that I kind of got from the almost hallway presentation of the first one, you know. And I also think their story, like, you know, with Uncharted coming out so well, you know, like their story presentation, their moments, their gameplay and stuff like that. And they even did the semi-open thing. They just didn't put as much emphasis on go here, find this highlighted item kind of a thing.
Right.
I don't know. I want to like the series. I really want to go back and beat the second one just to see what it's like because, man, the ending of the first one, I was like, what are we doing right now? You know, this is a crazy like moment where there's this whole shack in the middle of the cave that's getting torn up by ghosts, and you're like, there weren't even like, where did that come from? I was on a boat escaping like cartel people. Like, when did ghosts come in? Like that whole supernatural setting. I don't know. I feel they had a really good idea going into the reboot, and then it just not flat, but just it didn't impact me as much in the second one. I mean, the gameplay, yeah, it looks like a prettier picture.
Right.
It looks like Tombs. The gameplay is solid. I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of the game mechanics overall in terms of controlling Laura and like the stealth mechanics, the crafting mechanics. I mean, that is all great, and the puzzle solving. That's another thing that like they stuck with in the series that I thought was pretty well adapted to like modern, you know, like these environmental puzzles that you can kind of solve.
If I could give it like a classification, like just from someone who hasn't played it, it looks very Last of Us and Uncharted like mashed together.
Yeah,
and
I would agree.
I say mashed because it feels like to me it looks forced.
Yeah.
Like, when you say like meshed or mashed, you know, like it like I said, it just feels really forced. And when you force something to happen, it's really hit and miss.
Yeah.
Especially with how the audience will take it.
I mean, I think their heart's in the right place. They're trying
Yeah,
something.
sure.
I would certainly say that it's a great idea, and I do want to see more of this new one just to see, you know, like kind of get a better opinion, and hopefully maybe they've gotten away from a few things in the sequel that I just didn't care for.
I played the first one too, beat that. I enjoyed it. The second one was Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got maybe about a third of the way through and then just kind of dropped it. Not because it was bad, it just I had other games, and basically I don't have a whole lot of time nowadays, so any games that come out that I really want to play, I spend the time on that. But I look forward to playing it in the future. It's one of those things where I'm not going to go out like super excited about it, going to buy it day one. It'll be probably a couple, you know, a year, maybe a couple of years down the road when it's $15 or so, where I might think about picking it up and trying it. But other than that, I'm not like super stoked for it at all. But I'm sure it's a phenomenal game. I don't have anything bad to say about it or the previous ones. I thought they were pretty decent, so I'm sure this one will be pretty good too. But just not like totally excited for it, not hyped for it.
No, yeah, I'm not.
I've never really been into the Tomb Raider franchise anyway. Like, you know, they've been around for God knows how long, but I've never once like picked up a Tomb Raider game and like fell in love with the story and like that. So I don't have much experience in it. Some people, you know, they just hooked on it. They love the franchise. They love everything about it. You know, neat. You know, awesome. It's just I don't know. I never had that.
I never played it back in the day on PlayStation just because I was an N64 kid.
Yep.
So
Same.
we didn't. It wasn't on our system.
No.
But I always was kind of jealous of the people that got to play it,
Yeah.
just because it was always pushing boundaries. Really, graphic-wise, it was always top tier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
On the PlayStation console itself, every iteration they always came out with something new. It looked better and better and better, just like nowadays. But so I'm not sure if those are well regarded as good games or not. I haven't really looked into it, but the original PlayStation games, I don't know a whole lot about them, but
There's a lot of
yeah, there is.
them. Oh man.
I would give it a thumbs up. Just
I would too.
Because
Yeah.
just because
Absolutely.
I've never heard anything bad. Like actually, like this is terrible. This is, you know, this shouldn't be in the game. I've always heard, yeah, it's, you know, it's a very very solid game. You know,
Yeah.
And that's.
I would have a suggestion, guys. If you want to go back and play just the first one, I think they even redid it for the modern consoles.
Definitive edition. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is worth playing. It's just, you know, it's one of those games where like it really surprised me. It was really well done, and it's nothing. I mean, the stuff that lost me on the second one was kind of like Pence said, there was so much to go and play
Mhm.
that this game just didn't have the hooks to keep me moving forward. Whereas the first one, I beat it in 2 days, maybe. I don't know. I was glued. You know, I was like, wow, this is really, really good. I mean, it's good for the one playthrough. I didn't go back again, but you know.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Especially, you can get this definitive edition usually on like a Xbox Live sale for $4 or something.
yeah.
So
oh yeah.
it's definitely worth it at that price. It's
Oh, yeah.
really good. September. Also, I'm sure all thumbs up about that. I am at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna go on to September 27th. Life is Strange 2, Episode 1. I never played it. Don't really have any interest in the previous ones. I'm not a big. It looks more of like a Telltale type game.
I was gonna say,
Is it made by the same people?
No,
Okay.
it is actually different.
I've just never really been into those type of games. I tried like The Walking Dead. What else? Oh, Back to the Future one, because I'm a huge Back to the Future fan.
Borderlands was actually a really.
I
Really?
heard that one.
Oh my god! They had a moment I was almost like, I mean, close to in tears.
Mhm.
Like, and that's Borderlands. You would think to yourself, like, I mean, there's a few moments that Borderlands
Yeah.
does it, but man, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but if you get a chance to play the Telltale series,
Yeah.
Episode 4 is gonna be hard.
But I've never been into them, so I've never really looked at Life is Strange. Never really cared for it, so I'm not. This is just. I'm never going to touch it probably. So but maybe you guys have experience with it.
My girlfriend actually streams it, and she seems to really enjoy the Life is Strange series. Like the first game, I know it got like a lot of not criticism, but like popularity because it was very unique and it didn't feel like a Telltale, you know, like The Walking Dead was, because The Walking Dead was very bland. It was very
Linear.
Very linear. In Life is Strange, it felt more.
Your decisions have weight.
Yes, exactly.
Because
And-
you essentially have like time, like a lot more time to take, like to actually
Right.
weigh things. Like you have to really consider and like, I don't want to say investigate, but you know, like absorb what's going on in the scenario.
Right.
And when I said linear for The Walking Dead earlier, I wasn't saying maybe choice-wise. There's a bunch of different choices, but
Oh, yeah.
basically it's just like,
And
you can walk forward, you can walk backwards, so you can look at some items and
It seems
Other
like
than
all
that,
your
it's like-
choices kind of.
go
Still-
to ones.
It's,
Yeah.
it's a a branching story too.
Yeah.
To a degree.
It still ends up
With Life is
you're on
Strange,
rails.
Yeah.
it didn't feel like, oh yeah, there's two choices. It would lead to one point. It was like you got two choices. This choice will go this way. This choice will go this way, and they may meet up, but there's no guarantee that they would. These choices would have impact for the rest of the playthrough.
So almost kind of similar to like Heavy Rain-esque games.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I mean, I only tried playing it a little bit. The only thing I didn't like was like the characters seemed fairly douchey. I can't think of a better word for that. I'm really sorry, but like they just seemed a bit pretentious, you know, for who they were, and
Chubby.
yeah, kind of like you know. But I will say that they did try to make different characters for a story that I don't think, you know, those like I don't think there's a game for that audience. Do you know what I mean?
You're
Like
talking
it's
about for the first or the second one?
for the first one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't that like in a like high school specific setting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause it was-
It's like a high school.
So
college.
now Life is Strange 2, Episode 1, is this following the same storyline as the previous one, or is this completely different characters?
I think this is like the pre-story of one of the characters. Just from my knowledge of my girlfriend telling me about it. I think it's the pre-story of one of the characters, and it's just following how she got to where she's at in the first game.
Okay.
Because a lot of the people from the first game, well, a lot of its audience really liked this one specific character. I think her name is Max, or something like that.
maybe nice.
Maybe.
Maybe
But
nice.
a lot of people liked this character because of the badass vibe that she gave, and just the overall I'm punk, I'm teen, I don't have to listen to you kind of thing. And
I say I love those hand gestures. They were perfect for what you were describing exactly. Like, oh man.
Cool.
I'm punk. I'm
Yeah.
but I from what I've observed, I think it is the pre-story, and I know some people are really excited about it, and some people are just like, life is strange. It's really there is a dedicated audience, but it isn't as massive as
It's a niche title.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
a very heavy following.
Exactly.
Like a cult
Yes,
following kind of.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It feels very like indie game best, like Shovel Knight.
Cult game of the video game world. You know
Yeah.
how movies have their cult movies, and
Yep.
I'd say it's probably one of those.
Really popular with the
so-
dark
Try to move on just so we can get all the way through these. But so I'd say I'm down on I'm not all about Life is Strange. Just because I'm sure it's a decent game, but I'm just not into it. So I'm gonna pass on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I won't pick it up. I mean, I would watch. Let's put it this way: I would go and I would definitely watch somebody play like Life is Strange, and then watch them play this. Absolutely,
Exactly.
because that's almost like a movie there, just watching somebody make these decisions and whatnot. But like, whether I don't necessarily want to like sit down. And
Yeah.
It's like, to me, the telltale like genre really picked up when PewDiePie played it. So like when he played The Walking Dead, and that really like sparked the interest for the series. So like a lot of people like watching people play it, but not necessarily play it themselves. So like you were saying. So I am definitely in the same boat. I would watch somebody play it, but I would never play it myself.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, I'm hyped for the people that are gonna enjoy it.
Oh,
I
yes,
think,
absolutely.
I think that crowd's gonna probably. I mean, the first one has its fan following. I think that they trust what the publisher and developer is gonna do.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited for them. I mean, personally, I will not play this game.
You're right.
September 28th. I know none of us care, but it has to be brought up because this is probably, I'm not for sure, but I think year after year it's usually the highest selling game. It may not be popular here in the U.S., but all around the world, that's FIFA 19.
Wait,
So-
really?
Yeah.
It's one of the
Oh
most
my-
highly sold
Yes.
games.
Dude, it is. It's
Yes.
huge.
Soccer hooligans.
Really?
It's insane.
Yes.
Like, have you seen like compilations of like online for FIFA stuff?
No.
Oh my god.
It's
I didn't know it was that big.
Oh.
It's crazy big.
It's insane. Like life-threatening. Like.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, if you think like FPSs are bad, I mean, like.
sports people, their trash talk, dude. There's times I was like, I think they're gonna get in a fight in the store, which is something you would never see on a Call of Duty release. You'll have some guy in a hat that has like some crazy logo on it, and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty good with my KDR. But if you got like, I mean, 2K especially is maybe one of the worst, but FIFA, oh my god, dude, it's like
I had no idea.
Oh
it's.
yeah.
I remember the year that Madden fell flat, kind of. And FIFA was popular because it came out after Madden, and everybody's like, "Oh, I'm getting FIFA," and I literally sold like thousands of dollars in Ultimate Team
Oh my
credit for
gosh.
FIFA because that's like, oh, this Ultimate Team stuff. And there's a kid, I swear, spent like $300 in Ultimate Team, then traded it in 2 months later, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what? You just
Oh,
why are you?
no.
I was like, why are you doing this? Well, I'm playing Call of Duty. I don't even play. I'm like, I sold you so much stuff, but yeah, no, it's.
Wow.
I mean, I think it's the other football game. It really is now. Like, especially even here in the States, the following is like higher than it's ever been for FIFA. You know.
Not only that, I mean, here in the U.S., football's huge, but pretty much every single country out of the U.S. is all into soccer, and so that's why it's huge over there. But I don't care for it just because I'm pretty sure it has pretty much the same microtransactions as NBA 2K.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's EA.
The Ultimate Team I was talking about is
Yeah.
basically team player packs. I mean, they do try to separate it out into a competitive mode and then the Ultimate Team, or at least they did. From what I've heard, they've actually started kind of merging that to be more aggressive with the microtransactions.
Now, the Ultimate Team's like the cards, correct? So you
Yes.
get okay.
Yeah.
It's like baseball cards where you just open a pack and you get
You
cards.
get a character. I mean, what you're doing, you're still playing the game, by the way. You just get those characters to put on your team, so no matter what country or team they
Okay.
play for, you get to use this like static team to like go against other static teams, and it is, I mean,
Can I have like 16 retro Pele's? Is that a thing?
yeah.
Can I get Ronaldo?
You get a shiny retro Pele.
I mean, they're
I want a
glitters.
holographic Pele, man.
Yeah. Do they have? I mean, like their bigger announcements is when they add in old players. You know, like they have huge things when they added in old players. And mind you, I don't follow soccer that much,
No.
but like,
Right.
I mean, God, those were huge announcements. People would come in and start talking about. I'm like, I'm really trying to understand what you're saying.
If I was going to ever make a soccer game, I would be a troll, and I would make it so all of the players were actors. Because you're going to fall on the ground anyway.
Yeah. See, I would make all the players Mario characters, and then
it would be
when it's
fun.
done,
Yeah.
it would be a good game.
Then you can
Right.
add like power-ups.
Mario
and,
Strikers.
certain stuff. Yeah.
Oh,
that's rocket.
So the FIFA is a big.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna play. Definitely.
Now, I forgot to add this, so I don't know the exact. We're going into October now, so I'm not sure if this is. I'm pretty sure it's October. Fallout 76, is that
It's
or November? Okay.
The beta opens in October.
So we can say that for next time. Then we'll talk about November, December for the next one. But October 2nd, Forza Horizon 4. I'm stoked for this. I really am.
Really?
Yeah, I like racing games. All the past previous Forza Horizons have been excellent. I was just playing 3 yesterday. All the expansions that they have. Well, it's actually currently on Game Pass, which I'm a subscriber to. So you get all the expansions. They have a Hot Wheels thing, which has been just totally fun. They're doing a lot of different stuff, and the graphics, the gameplay, has just been excellent all around. So I'm excited for this, especially since I get it for free. So I get to play it for free on Game Pass.
I mean, Game Pass is really is the first time I've ever seen a company almost successfully do the whole Netflix for video games idea. It is crazy because I was watching the Xbox presentation, and Horizon was a game that I was like, I kind of want to play a racing game because I every now and then want to play one, and Forza is it's the go-to, And then when I saw that it was coming with Game Pass, which I have, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna save $60. I mean, on top of that is actually just the base game with Forza, because you could spend easily $150 on expansions and other content and cars.
Yeah, they put so much detail in the actual cars themselves. I mean, so much work gets put in there. So if there was one thing where it's like, okay, we are going to charge you for this, it's kind of understandable because they're literally, rebuilding every, minute detail.
And not only that, they have licenses that they have to pay for those cars, which is probably a huge amount of the DLC cost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I understand.
I would think that at this point they would almost be paying them to put it in the game.
That's true, though.
Yeah.
That's like an advertisement for their car.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the people playing that game are not buying some of the higher end cars.
What are you talking about? Don't you have your McLaren F1 out front?
Yeah, I do, with my robot butler just waiting for me.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's.
I don't feel like driving now.
Yeah.
But I think they're pretty, especially with I think any sort of anything that can really get you in the immersion. So they're fantastic with a controller that has excellent rumble. If you can get any sort of headset or something, if they're compatible with VR, I think that's also neat just for looking at the actual cars themselves. But every now and then it is really nice to enjoy a good race game.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd say Forza is the go-to.
I mean, I probably wouldn't buy it, but
if you can get it for free, I'll play it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I wouldn't pay money for it personally.
But yeah, no, I think I'm hyped. The feeling, the vibe, the way they do the racing mechanics for the Horizon series specifically, it just feels like a good. For me, I'm more of a casual racing fan, and it's a middle ground where it's some realism and the casual kind of experience of we're gonna go off-roading off of.
Yeah, it's very realistic yet arcadey in the racing, but being able to go off-road, you can go in water, you can not like a boat water, but you're driving through it and
the changing seasons.
Yes.
Not to even when they're that lake's gonna be frozen over in the winter, and you're like, what?
That's pretty awesome.
I was like, I'm way more interested than I thought I would be. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm hyped for it.
Oh, certainly, yeah, definitely.
Also, October 2nd, Mega Man 11.
Okay, so Mighty Number 9.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anything about that?
Yes.
Okay. Mighty Number 9, for those who don't know, really hit the wall, and it was not a soft wall; it was a hard brick wall. They failed miserably. They gave the Mega Man series a very bad name, in my opinion. But from what I've seen, it could be good, but because of Mighty Number 9, it makes me really skeptical to buy it.
No, it's not the same developer that made Mighty Number 9.
It is not.
Yes.
It's not, but I think Mega Man was tarnished by that. But on a similar note, it's going to sound a little bit weird. I've never really liked Mega Man. This is going to sound a little bit offensive, but he reminds me of Special Ed Samus.
Wow. I mean, no, I mean, you're not
You're
wrong.
like,
I mean, it's
I
just,
don't know if he can move on in the gaming world though.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah,
know, he
no.
was like conceived when graphic
Yes.
limitations were so horrendous.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, well, there's Sprite, it's the Mega Man,
Or that box art from
right,
the previous games. Wow.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't. There's only so far you can take a character with
Mhm.
that design, and I don't like it. It just there's. I mean, I hate to say that you have to have like a main character that appeals to future generations. Because
Right.
I mean, Sonic. Like it.
it's not as iconic as Samus. You're not wrong.
Yeah,
I
like I
Samus is probably one of my favorite characters of all time, especially the games. I've got Metroid Prime poster in my room. It's probably my top 3 game. Just it's unbelievable.
Like,
They're different types of games, but the characters are kind of the same, so you have to kind of compare them, like you're saying. But yeah, Mega Man has
it's like when
no
you have
no room to grow.
When you
Like,
have like Samus, it's like, oh man, she's awesome.
Mhm.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
she does all this crazy interstellar stuff, you know, as a bounty hunter. And then you've got Mega Man. It's like, what does Mega Man do again?
fights
Well,
bosses.
Yeah,
Does
and
he
then
shoot
gets their
Pac-Man
powers.
bullets?
Yeah,
It's like-
it shoots lemons.
I gotta agree. Mega Man never kind of did it for me. I know there's a huge fan following. A lot of people really like the series, but I mean, my favorite Mega Man game has to be Smash Brothers. So I mean, that's kind of it.
You know, you're
You
not
know,
wrong.
Yeah.
My favorite Mega Man game, Smash Brothers, where he's never picked.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. And
Yeah.
he's one of the harder characters to play too. You
Yeah.
know? Speaking from experience.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So I would say I'm not hyped.
Yeah.
Personally,
No.
I get that there's a fan following, but I just don't care.
It will never be a franchise that I will.
I'm right in the middle about it, just because it's like, oh man, it's another Mega Man game, and you know, for the retro players, it's like it's the greatest thing in the world.
Mhm.
It's like having another actual good Pac-Man game. You know, we haven't had one of those since.
You don't
When did
need
Pac-Man
another,
come out again?
you don't need another Pac-Man game. The first one's
Exactly.
perfect.
Exactly.
That's it.
It's true.
It's like Tetris.
And if
Talking about new Tetris. Come on.
Yeah.
if you take something old and like something that becomes an instant classic and then try to make it better and better and then keep, you know, adding on to it, is it really?
Well, I mean, if you take, for instance, I mean, Metroid came out the same time around Mega Man would have came out. But
Right.
you know what? I think the care and dedication they put into her character and the games that are surrounding her, I mean, they did a full departure in the first person, and it's still good.
Mhm.
And I think that's the difference. Like, Pac-Man has tried making 3D games. Mega Man has tried making different games, 3D ones as well. And really, the problem is that it feels more like a cash grab on your nostalgia than it does like we made a feature product that we also want to be part of. You know, our characters kind of build up. I don't know how to explain.
They're using a pre-existing character to make, you know, whatever game they felt like making.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, just to make it, it does feel like a cash grab. Whereas, like Prime, just like you said, I mean, it is a phenomenal game. And considering that Super Metroid is also a phenomenal game, and then Metroid Zero and the other Fusion is also really
Yes.
good.
Sure.
They have a more consistent track record with making good games for their character versus Mega Man, which just I don't know. It's just like, hey, we're gonna throw it out because you're probably gonna buy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
We'll gloss over these just because we're running late here, so we can get to some other stuff. But I'm gonna go ahead and skip over Assassin's Creed Odyssey,
Okay.
skip over Super Mario Party.
Yeah.
We're gonna go right to Call of Duty Black Ops 4 because it's gonna be, of course, the biggest game of the fall, most likely, like it is every single year. So, what are your opinions on it? What are you gonna get it? What have you seen so far? What do you like so far?
I only had to interrupt you slightly because so when I used to go to GameStop conferences, this is going to sound crazy even though we decided to gloss over it, which I'm okay with, by the way.
Mhm.
Assassin's Creed actually outsells Call of Duty.
Does it really?
Yeah.
No way.
No, I'm not joking. It's insane. And in fact, their reservation numbers are higher this year than they. It's because, again, worldwide appeal versus just the States. I mean, not that other
That's
people
fair.
in other countries play Call of Duty, but Assassin's Creed, because of its like culture influences and
Mhm.
stuff,
Yeah.
has this weirder, widespread, and it's a single player game. It was the most fascinating thing. They're like, no, we're like one of the top selling games of like,
Wow.
and it's just you don't see it as not as much in your face, but like people more consistently bought it and kept buying it, and versus like, I mean, Call of Duty still, by the way, I don't disagree in terms of the announcement of Blackout. This easily could be the battle royale that I end up playing and enjoying. So the beta footage looks good. Like, I'm kind of surprised. I'm very much hyped to see this.
Go ahead.
It looks like the gameplay of Blackout feels very. I don't know, because like the footage I watched, it was either really condensed or it was really widespread, and there was no in between. It wasn't like, oh yeah, you have this big zone like in Fortnite or PUBG or H1, and then it shrinks. Whereas, like, imagine that you're in a building and there's 100 people in this building, and you have to kill all these people in this building, and the last one standing wins. How are you going to shrink that? How are you going to find each other? Stuff like that. I mean, you could do it, vertically.
So, they do have like a normal size map similar to Fortnite or PUBG. They have set pieces throughout in different towns and names and stuff like that. So they do have a skyscraper, like half-built one in there.
Right.
I think what I saw was that they tried to keep the close quarters nature with the set pieces throughout the map, and there are like empty spaces in between, but you can always see visually the next place. I don't think the map size is as big as the other two, but I mean, it looked. Though I will say this, all the footage I saw where people were dropping in, almost every single time, no matter where they landed, there was always 4 or 5 people, because I don't think there's enough spread out or naked zones to, like, PUBG, if you're like, I don't want to get in a fight immediately, I'm just going to drop here and get into a building,
Drop in the desert, walk a little bit, find some stuff.
It didn't seem like there was necessarily that kind of exploratory space to the map, since everything was almost within a very short walking distance. It kind of felt like
Battle Royales, my inherent problem with them is, one, most of the time it's okay, you're dropping from the sky at anywhere in a gigantic map. I don't like being dropped like naked with a melee weapon. I don't know, I can't really stand that aspect of like the game, just because it's like, well, what am I gonna get lucky with in this box today? Like,
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I don't understand the crazy how popular these games are getting. These battle royale, it's such luck based. I mean, there is definitely skill in there. Just proving Marshawn is won like 3 times in a row in his Fortnite thing, just because he really is really good. Especially just watching him, you're like, he's gonna win this pretty much every single time. So it does take skill, but there's just too much of a random chance thrown in there that I just can't get into it. But I am hyped for Black Ops 4 Blackout. I did not care at all for Black Ops 4, because a lot of the stuff that they were announcing, like you could only buy maps if you bought the season pass. You can't buy them separately. They were doing all this. Plus, there's no single player now, too.
right,
Crazy.
which is crazy because Treyarch's campaigns are some of the best in the Call of Duty series. I mean, Black Ops 3 was such a fully fleshed out game, like in terms of what it offered, and I mean, minus the DLCs. You're talking they had a zombies campaign separate, a full single-player campaign where you built up characters kind of in a way, and then they also had, a really good multiplayer, and they had 2 different maps in zombies at the beginning, and then they had not only just 1 season pass, and they added like 8 more zombie maps or something like that down the road. They went above and beyond like expectation.
Are they continuing with zombies in Black Ops 4, or are they just like transitioning over into?
I think it has 3 or 4 maps at the beginning. So instead of since they're taking away the campaign, they're like, hey, we're gonna have more to offer straight from the get-go versus the down the road kind of approach.
Maybe they're gonna try and focus more on the zombies campaign, because when you think Call of Duty Black Ops, you think zombies or multiplayer. There's no in between.
No.
And you don't look back. You don't hear a lot of people look back and be like, "Oh yeah, Black Ops had my favorite campaign."
I hate to say it, but Black Ops 1 did have.
Oh yeah, it did.
I mean, not to disagree, it just had really good moments. They had a really good story to tell. It was the only time I understood a Call of Duty story that was being told to me, whereas like most of the time, like, you're getting dropped in this mission, bruh. You're going to get on a jet ski at some point.
Characters,
to shoot your gun.
totally. You don't even care about them.
No, and really, they, like Woods, like the reason he is so iconic is because of the first game, like going inside one of these little hidey holes in Vietnam and hallucinating like different characters to only find out you have been making up Victor Reznov from the World at War games in your head because you were brainwashed like that was a crazy impactful moment where you're at the end. You think Viktor Reznov's about to kill this guy, but it's you. You're beating this guy down, and it was like, what?
Yeah,
Like,
it was definitely one of the moments that caught me off guard. I was like, oh, okay. Like, and they hinted at it too.
Good job. You just ruined it for everyone,
I was
guys.
gonna say,
Sorry.
I'm like, gee, I haven't played this. What
No,
now?
okay, like you're not gonna
I'm
go.
not.
You're not gonna go back and play it unless they do an HD remaster. In which case, I'm sorry, I spoiled it. But like, if you haven't played it yet, you're not playing it, and you had
Yeah.
too many years.
I mean, you figure everyone that would have wanted to play a Call of Duty game gets a Call of Duty game within the first game.
Oh,
like,
they do.
easily.
Yeah.
Like, anyone that's not already in the Call of Duty franchise, they're not going to unless, a friend literally hooks them into it.
And especially not the campaigns. I don't see anybody going back and playing through those just because they really don't have the fan following. Like Black Ops, it is sad that they're not going to do a campaign because they are the only studio that can really pull off. Infinite Warfare's campaign was actually pretty good too, but I mean,
Ghost.
I didn't play Ghost at all, but man, Infinite Warfare.
Now, honestly, you made the statement that people are not going to go back and play. I'm actually the type of person that will, just because the later the previous Call of Duties have become backwards compatible on Xbox. It's fun
That's
going
good.
through those and just getting the achievements for them and playing on veteran. So I do have plans of playing Modern Warfare 2. What else? Oh, Modern Warfare 3. I'm probably going to play the campaigns for those, although they're probably not all that great. But achievement hunting for them's fun.
Have you not played them before?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't even know.
No,
you had...
I said Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3.
No, okay, sorry. You played Black Ops then? Yeah?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
good. I just didn't.
Yeah.
Let me just. Okay, you know what? I was about to say something about speaking Russian, and then I was like, nah, never mind. I'm not gonna say anything. So you know what I'm talking about. All right, there we go. That's not a spoiler yet.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, that was a tough moment. And then I, I'm not gonna go into it, but I felt really bad. So it felt bad. Anyway, but yeah, you should definitely play through Modern Warfare 2. It is an amazing game from start to finish. I didn't really care for the story, but in terms of like an action game, it's good.
Yeah. Something nice to truck on. In terms of this though, for we're going to Call of Duty 4, with regard to like a battle royale-esque within like a building, that's kind of interesting to me because one of my complaints with both PUBG, Fortnite, and all of them is walking simulator. PUBG is the worst offender by far.
Oh God.
Like if you don't get a vehicle, it's like, hope you like sprinting in the middle of nowhere. It's like you might have your gun, but there's just so much downtime
Yes.
for so little action.
And that is why I can't get into it. I don't understand the appeal for it. I have a buddy that is constantly just ragging on me to play with him and join his party. He always sees me playing Battlefield 4 on Xbox, and he's constantly sending me messages, sending me invites. I'm just like, I can't get into this game. It's so slow.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you can drop somewhere where it's going to be action-packed, but
still, like,
you're dropped with nothing. You're just luck. Like, oh, let me run in this room. Oh, this guy's got a pistol. I'm dead.
Yeah. I think
So-
so far the best rendition of that is actually the fact that Fortnite has that playground mode where it's like, okay, you just respawn. It's like, okay, that's already a better start. You can have an airdrop game with a giant map as long as there's like respawns. It's just I don't like the idea. It's like that you have to semi-care about each life because you still want to have fun in the game, so you might go a little bit risky, or you might go super defensive because you want to win. But it's not like an RPG where it's like, okay, legit have to care about my character down the road. I have to kind of care because if I die, I'll just start a new game, a new round, and then, everything's,
Their 50 on 50 mode, I kind of wondered, like, it would be really nice to see, like, because their maps and the way they're built, like, you know how they used to have that, like, take over a point kind of mode for some multiplayer shooters? It'd be really cool to have, like, respawns. And that where you can do kind of push the map and like go around to different places.
That would almost be like an open worldish TF2 sort of thing minus the class system, which would be I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I like respawns in games. If Fortnite legit had like King of the Hill combat where it's just like, okay, build up to this point and capture like this town, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. As it is now, is just a battle royale. Just have no interest in it.
Well, with new players, you and this isn't any battle royale, and I'm even Call of Duty, Black Ops 4, there's going to be a lot of people where this is their first Call of Duty. They're not going to be exposed to what the veterans have, like with people like my cousin who has played Call of Duty since Call of Duty 3 on the PS2. You know, there's going to be a lot of kids who play this, and it's going to be their first time. But a lot of their time is going to be loading simulator and walking simulator, and that is a big turnoff for me.
Oh yeah. Like when you get into a matchmaking lobby and it's like, for example, like the PUBG one where you just chuck apples at each other, something like that. You know, it's like waiting to join this game.
Yeah, it does seem like they've put the Call of Duty feel into the map. Like I said, you're never without like a sight line on something, and then the spaces in between are not big. Like PUBG, you're right. You could run for 5 minutes solid to get to the next town, and it does not like almost the layout seems like it's built that you could go from one place to another within. I think the longest I saw somebody walking was maybe a minute, you know, overall to like the next place. But you can visually see it, and you can even see players, you know. So there's always a landmark. There's always something you can go to, and there are actually plenty of vehicles, like helicopters and all this other stuff that's in it, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So
map density is very important. If they're going to do any sort of battle royale mode.
Oh yeah.
And I've always, you know, when PUBG first came out on PC, my cousin and friends always wanted me to get it. They were always into those early access games, and I was just every time I would buy one with them, it always ended up being trash. And so I just let them play those early access stuff, and I told myself I'm never getting into an early access game again. But I bought PUBG, played it with them. I just didn't see the appeal, just the downtime on it like that. But I always thought, I was like, this would be really fun if A, it was a game with decent graphics, B, and the frame rate was good, and the controls were tight and everything, just like a Call of Duty game. And here it is finally coming out. I wasn't hyped at all for Black Ops 4. Then I saw that Blackout trailer that they had, and I was like, okay, this might actually be pretty good.
yeah,
Right.
Then I've watched a little gameplay on streamers and stuff, and it looks pretty decent. So I am actually looking forward to it, and I probably will give it a try.
I will also probably give it a try just to see what the hype is about.
Mhm.
But if I don't like it, there's no me coming back to it.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know if I'll necessarily play it. I'll be interested to see how people that are big into battle royales, you know, take it. But my biggest hope out of it is that battle royales are almost on the downhill.
I hope so too.
That-
I hope so
That's
too.
what I'm hoping for the most out of this game.
Let's get back to a traditional team deathmatch type game.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if we can turn back. I mean, you had to think at some point, like, you know, deathmatch became team deathmatch, became, you know, class-based fighters and stuff. I think
Yeah.
there will always be places in people's heart, and luckily with the longevity of certain shooters, you know, we're seeing that, like, you know, Rainbow Six Siege made a complete turnaround.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think Battle Royale goes away. I think that eventually hype will level out or at least mediate, but like Call of Duty for the longest time had the throne, really,
Oh yeah.
when it came to shooters.
Mhm.
I mean, and Halo before that, I don't see Battle Royale moving necessarily. But I think that's our evolution that we're currently standing at. I don't know that we'll see anything for. I mean, if the cycle is correct, it'll be another 3-4 years before we see something different or refreshing in a meaningful way or in an impactful way. You know, kind of along those lines. I am excited though. I am hyped for this game.
Oh yeah.
So.
All right.
Definitely.
Seems like we all are. Oh, let's go. The big one, October 26th, Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm beyond hyped for this. This is probably the one game of the year that I really, really, really want to play. I played the first one. It was amazing back in 2010. Amazing story, amazing graphics. They pushed the boundaries on everything, especially on a console like 360 and PS3. What it was capable of, especially now that it's backwards compatible on Xbox One X. You can play it in 4K. Looks phenomenal. Still looks like a decently new game in 4K. So I am really hyped for this. Rockstar always goes above and beyond with every single release that they do. So I think this is going to be a definite one that you'll want to play.
Oh yeah.
The only concern that I have about the game is the online modes.
Yes.
Because Rockstar is very notorious for
Yes.
having bad online play.
Yeah.
GTA.
Grand Theft
4,
Auto 5 is just a mess. It's terrible.
Yeah. It's
and even Red Dead 1, it didn't feel rewarding. It just
Yeah.
felt like I'm going to run around. Oh, I'm dead. Well, I'm going to respawn, and hopefully I can kill him next time. And
I've got to say, I don't disagree with the online modes, but man, did they make a crap ton of money on
Oh.
GTA 5.
Oh, of course they did.
Oh my god.
absolutely.
I was selling $100
Yep.
shark cards, like especially around Christmas time. Oh my god. And it's like, this game's 3 years old.
Mhm.
Why are you still playing?
Not only do they make a crazy amount of money on the shark cards, it is still in like the top 20 sold every single month. That game is, because it's on so many platforms.
Yep.
But it's still in the top, a lot of times in the top 10 of sales for a month. And that game came out in what, 2013, I think.
It- You know, I had to give credit to Rockstar that when they make a game, they will make an impact. That is guaranteed.
Oh, yeah.
And personally, like Red Dead, I didn't play the first one or care for it as much as most people did. But you know, I did work at GameStop when this game came out, and my God, like I thought GTA 4 was a huge thing, but Red Dead literally went ridiculous, and that was like, I was like, I don't know what happened. Why is everybody buying this? We were sold out like for a couple of months solid. Just like we'd get them in, they'd sell right back out. Get them in, sell back out. Because I mean, physical was the main distribution at this point. I mean, if we had inklings on it, and then it sold up until 5 came out. Like it would, and it still sells today. Like that. The crazier part is that you could buy it on Xbox, and people did go buy it on Xbox. In fact, the price went up because they allowed it to be backwards compatible. Like, what game franchise outside of like anything Blizzard makes could have that long-lasting impact? And I don't know of another company that does.
Not only that, they actually came out with a reprint of the Red Dead Redemption, and it's actually an Xbox One casing. So it's a smaller case. It's got the Xbox One branding. They've actually done that with quite a few games, like Fallout New Vegas, Ultimate Edition, and some others too. But that's just how much buying power that game has, and how much of a legacy. It's still popular, still a great game, and I'm sure they're going to push the boundaries on Red Dead Redemption 2. But like you said, the online I'm kind of worried about, especially how they've done with Grand Theft Auto 5, which is, in my opinion, just a hot mess. I don't even want to play it just because of basically pay to. I don't necessarily know if it's pay to win, but it's
not pay
it's no
to
fun.
win. It's not pay to win. It's more so.
Hey, to be
Because
real
you-
flashy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's just like real life. It's like, oh yeah, you know, I can get a coat or I can get a fur coat.
Yeah.
It's better.
In a way, because like whenever a GTA Online update would drop, the biggest possible advantage you could have is just by throwing money, getting shark cards, and then having the newest equipment fastest. Because every update that came out with that game, there's always, like, once they introduced armored cars, the game was starting to die in the online, for me specifically anyway, because there was no longer like, oh hey, you know, you're like a level 16 in GTA Online, you can just do a drive-by and, you know, eliminate another player. It's like, hey, you're not rolling up in an armored car or a tank or an APC, you're dead.
Yeah.
You're absolutely dead. How much sticky bombs do you have on you? Because if not, you're also dead. And like it, they just started making more and more equipment that you needed to get, and the amount of income that you actually earned in the game didn't really scale quite to what you needed. Like, for example, when they had like their CEO update, you know, they had it where you could do this horrendously long procedure to make a decent amount of money, but there was high risk. You could lose, you know, so much in so little time. So with that sort of, you know, past proceedings with Rockstar's online, I hope that Red Dead isn't mostly emphasized on its online, because I don't care. You know, if I were to play that game, it would be for like the storyline. You know, enjoy the open world, because that's what Rockstar does amazing is their worlds.
Oh yeah.
So if they can make that nice and enjoyable, then I think they'll do well.
My big thing with Grand Theft Auto 5 Online was, I don't know if it's still the same, but I'm pretty sure it is, the crazy, crazy long load times for matchmaking just to get into a race or something was unbelievable.
Yes.
And then it would load, sit you out into the sky, you're waiting there, go back, then you're in a lobby, sometimes kick you back out, go up. It was just ridiculous. And then I thought the PC version would fix that, and it didn't. So I was very disappointed about that.
I mean, optimization in Rockstar games is honestly one of their biggest flaws and issues I think they have to deal with. Like, I think the whole point during the campaign of having the zoom out and zoom back in was so that, like, hey, you wouldn't notice the load times. Because, I mean, yes, they're open worlds.
It was really nice in the campaign. You know, I didn't mind that at all. But, man, when you're online just reading, like, the same mundane, like, loading screen things and you just see the blurry skyline, you become painfully aware of what is, you know, what exactly is going on with their connection and matchmaking.
I also think their networking, ability will probably be better this time around because they've had the trial and error that they've had with GTA. Whereas like if you really think about it, I mean, 4 kind of had some network features, and Red Dead did, but not in the same scale or presence that 5 did. And I think honestly, with their being able to test the waters even on the new consoles, you would hope to see the improvement actually through this generation. So
Yeah.
Cool. We skipped over a few games just because we got to get going. It's been about an hour and 20 minutes now. Let's look at games that we didn't talk about that you're really, really looking forward to. Anything on your mind?
I mean, the obvious one for me is Smash Ultimate. I mean, it drops in December, but it's getting a lot of news, like, pretty frequently. Like tomorrow, there's a Nintendo Direct, and they're going to talk about, or Nintendo's going to talk about some of the new games that they're like trying to put out there. I know there's a new Metroid game that they haven't. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God, yeah, Prime 4.
Yeah, Prime 4.
That'll be the day that I get a Switch.
Oh yeah.
What, you
Yeah.
still haven't gotten one yet?
We've got 4 here, but
I was gonna say, I was like-
I don't have one personally.
Oh my God, there's a few good games on it. I mean, just a few. So.
But I've never, don't kill me for this, I've never played a single Metroid game ever, and
Just don't play the first. You can play the rest.
yeah,
I don't like
and
the
that's
first
what
one.
I've been told as well.
Okay.
I mean, there's no lore or story reason to play any particular one. I would tell you anyone that you choose to pick. I mean, outside of the first, yeah, they're good.
But a lot of people have been talking about a new Animal Crossing game on the Switch coming out, and I mean, I'm not personally hyped for it, but my girlfriend is just like, she's on.
Some people love.
Is there rumors that it's going to be on Nintendo Direct tomorrow?
There are rumors,
Uh-huh.
yes. There are rumors, and then there's also rumors of a new Smash Bros. Character getting, like...
Does he have a mustache?
Does he have a mustache?
Does he have a mustache? Does he wear
If
purple?
If he doesn't, I do not care. I'm sorry. I swear, if they announce another Fire Emblem character,
Yeah,
I'm not
seriously.
getting the game.
What do you mean? You don't want Fire Emblem Warriors 2, the Smash Brothers adaptation? Come on, like this is that game.
We'll see. I'm a big Kingdom Hearts fan. I really want Sora in the game. I don't care if he's DLC.
God, he
I don't
fit
care if
so
he's
well.
I know he would. Oh
They-
my gosh.
They could at least make a nice, unique character out of Sora.
I mean, it's not.
But
Well, they've never
Daisy,
been on a
though,
Nintendo console, have they?
What's
What's
that?
up?
Kingdom Hearts has never been on a
3DS.
Nintendo console.
3DS.
Dream
they've been
Drop
on
distance.
And,
Yes.
and DS as well. And it's also been on the Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
So I mean, they've had some presence, nothing crazy, but honestly, I mean, with Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out and them not going to have that game, I mean, the best thing they could do is be like, hey, but you know what we do have? Sora, and like that would do wonders for them and Kingdom Hearts because there's a cross section there.
Oh yeah.
There is certainly the same fan base.
Having Cloud in Smash 4, that was huge. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
that was something that definitely stapled like for the whole series. Like anybody could be in this game now.
Yeah,
Like-
Bayonetta, Ryu.
Yeah,
I mean, we're bringing
exactly.
back Snake.
Snake, yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Castlevania characters.
Negan from The Walking Dead got announced for Tekken 4. Like
Whoa.
That part was crazy, and
Yeah.
some people were upset. They're like, "Well, I don't know why he wouldn't be in Mortal Kombat." And I was like, "I don't disagree with you, but I mean, Noctis and other characters have been added. I really,
Right.
at this point, Tekken 7 is supposed to be really good. I think the fact that they have to tone down Negan for the game is why people are upset. Versus like Mortal Kombat, where they could have got away with him being him. You know,
Yeah.
so
but the big characters that would probably change a lot in Smash, Goku from Dragon Ball Z. I personally don't want him in there, but that's
I don't
just
think he
my
fits.
no. Sora is highly, highly, highly requested. That would change everything because like we need, or a lot. One argument is we need more Square Enix representation and.
I mean, they have a really good roster of characters that
Oh,
look and definitely could play the part, considering their movesets and stuff. And I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, Bayonetta. Hey, you know what? On the other hand, Bayonetta's also an awesome series.
Yeah.
okay? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a
Oh,
really
Oh yeah, it
good
is
game.
unbelievable.
That's
Yeah.
why
I was-
it's kind of sad because
Love it.
Bayonetta is an awesome character,
Mhm.
but it's like she's ruining Smash, arguably in 4. I mean, as far as Nintendo Direct goes, if they don't announce Waluigi's,
I think
I don't care. Like,
when you were still working at GameStop, you like held on a copy of Bayonetta 2 for me. I think
Yeah.
it was for the Wii U because it was super rare at the time. I
It
don't know. I
was.
can't remember why, but
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think it's because they, I mean, Wii U copies of games are actually, the physical copies are rare because they
Mhm.
never printed a bunch of
Right.
them. You know, like the stealth. It's like Sega Saturn games. Sega Saturn games are expensive, regardless if they're trash, because they're Sega Saturn games. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
it was.
if you want a collection, you gotta have them.
Yeah, I am terrible at that stuff too. So, yeah. But yeah, no, I gotta say, yeah, Bayonetta 2, man, that was such a good game.
And
God, that was so good.
speaking of Bayonetta, Bayonetta 3 has been talked about for tomorrow as well for the direct, because, yeah, I mean, I don't know if Bayonetta is like a Nintendo game, but it's been leaning more Nintendo.
I think it's technically pretty
I
much
think they
is
got the
now.
rights
They
for it now.
they pay
Yeah.
totally everything for Bayonetta 2, I believe.
Because
Okay.
I think
Um,
that studio was going under, wasn't it?
No, the team,
Platinum?
Platinum. I don't
Yeah.
think so. I think they're pretty set, but
Yeah.
I mean, they could always probably use more funding. They had a few games that came out, like the Transformers and TMNT, that didn't really do that well. So, I mean,
What do those two games have in common with the franchises?
oh man, I wonder.
Marvel.
Yeah.
I was gonna say licensed content. That's what I was gonna say. It's clear that
Sure.
I will wonder with Bayonetta 3, considering the type of game that it is, and the recent movements that we've kind of seen in gaming culture. You know, will there be a tone down or tone back? Which I don't mind. I don't think that would do damage to her character necessarily. Her character is this embodiment of it. I
Right.
think. I wouldn't care one way or the other. I am just interested to see maybe where they go in the outcome, because we have seen MKX obviously made a change.
Oh,
you know, from 9 that was visible, you know, to everybody, and then Injustice 2 also made a visible change. You know, there are things that are subtle but are happening. So I'll be interesting to see how they do. But I mean, not to say that Nintendo shies away. I mean, Resident Evil 4 released on GameCube, so and that, I mean, you know what that became, obviously. So. But yeah, I don't know. What are you excited to play?
My biggest fall release is definitely going to be Fallout 76. That's like the game. That's probably the only game that I'm going to buy for the rest of the year. Possibly Smash Ultimate, but I'm currently on the Switch. But I know with Fallout 76, there's going to be quite a bit of controversy among the release of it, because people's expectations for the Fallout games were way out of whack. When 4 released, people hated it, like across, you know, I wouldn't say across the board, but a lot of people did. But I think it's because the franchise had been picking up people that weren't previously into Fallout games. So when people that are familiar with Bethesda, how their games work, and what to expect of them, and what they can physically do, you know, in a reasonable time, they were like, okay, you know, this is a really good game. Like, it's like there were some areas where they were like experimenting in things that they probably had no business in, but like it was
A really good presentation.
yeah, it was. It, like, oh, not to mention, yeah, their E3 for Fallout 4 was phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
So for Fallout 76, I'm sure that people are, like, I would say that there's probably going to be, like, in terms of, like, Steam's, you know, how Steam rates games, it'll probably be in the mix section, even though it's not on Steam. It's going through Bethesda.net, which is another kind of, like, sensitive subject for some people, because they're like, oh, man, I don't want to play on PC if it's not Steam. But I already use the creation kit anyway for Fallout 4.
I'll tell you what, it is kind of irritating though, having 30 different launchers for
Launchers.
different games. You got Origin, Steam, Uplay, Bethesda. I'm sure there's others out there too that I'm forgetting, but
Yeah.
constantly juggling. Which game did I have on which one?
Right.
It gets
yeah.
irritating. So
I think if they could just come with a more less publisher-based version of that, because Steam's, the reason it's nice is that it can take multiple publishers on it, and then like GOG, I think is the other one.
yes,
You know, like those seem more appealing to me. It's in the same way that Hulu and Netflix seem appealing,
Oh, yeah.
because you can get other content in the same house,
Mhm.
and I think that's probably what more people want to see, just because then it does generate the competition. Whereas like if Steam has no competition, it has no reason to improve.
Yeah.
But I don't think a publisher-based version of that is the
Isn't
answer.
necessarily the way to go.
No.
I can agree with that. I think if I were to say why Bethesda is doing that specifically, is I think they're trying to make people realize now, like, they're starting to amass quite the good collection of, like,
Back
IPs.
catalog.
original games. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
IPs.
mean, they've got Wolfenstein franchise now. They've got Doom now. I mean, and they've got
Fallout,
Fallout
Elder
franchise.
Scrolls. What was the other? Starbound, I think, is it called?
Yeah.
Yes.
Many years away.
Starfield or something
Starfield.
like that.
It might be that. Yeah.
But I mean, I think that they're trying to really like, I don't want to say like go in the direction of Blizzard, but that's what it reminds me of. You know, Blizzard has their IPs where, you know, they want to proudly display. It's like, hey, we own these franchises, and I can't really fault them for it.
Plus, they want to get full price for the games that are bought. I mean, Steam takes probably a 30% cut.
Yep.
That's pretty decent amount. So they were just like, well, we want all this. So
Can't
don't
fault anyone for that.
yeah, you can't really. I mean,
You know, and honestly, I think what you'd probably see more or less is like, hey, we're going to release on our own platform and then release on blah. You know, I mean, was it Call of Duty this year is not releasing? I don't think it releases on Steam, or it might, but they are also putting it in the Blizzard feature. Yeah, which
Destiny was too.
And it's like, what? I mean, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, it's because Blizzard Activision are like a.
Well, Activision bought Blizzard.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
Yeah, quite a few years back, which is weird because Blizzard. How can they?
The
possibly-
idea of somebody buying Blizzard is just like.
Well, they were trying to sell for years, and it's like, how are you guys hurting for money? I sold StarCraft 1 up until StarCraft 2 came out. Like,
Right.
in store, in a box.
Yeah.
Like, it was $20.
Yeah.
And people bought that up until the release of Wings of Liberty.
I mean, you can go to some Walmarts nowadays and find a Diablo battle chest still,
Yeah,
Yep.
no.
if
Yeah.
you're lucky.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think that that's possible, and that's what I'm saying. Like, in terms of when Blizzard did it, I was like, well, you have iconic franchises. I understand why you're doing this, but, like, some of these developers are like, EA.
No,
you know,
yeah. EA, in my opinion, has no business in like trying to be like, "Hey, get the EA launcher." It's like that's the one I'm not getting.
I think the problem is that I don't have trust in their ability to be a distribution platform because their networking is not always the best. And whereas Steam has a mostly clean record, and so does Blizzard even in that manner, in terms of taking care of their customers, knowing what people want, and delivering on those promises. Whereas I don't feel that like I have the same trust in EA. And Bethesda is not always the great at launch either. You know, if we don't talk about Bethesda products, they are a long tail product that lasts for years, and they are amazing games. But that you are almost buying an alpha. That's a bit mean, but
No, basically,
of the game because it doesn't work. And you might even the worst stories I've heard, people losing like 60-hour save files, and it's like, oh, how are you even playing it? So, well, it's still a good game, and it's like, no, it can't
I couldn't start over again.
No.
I'll be like, I'm done.
I know. I remember. I think for Fallout 3, I did have a corrupted save file, and that was pretty bad. But not gonna lie, I still played the crap out of that game.
It's a really
But
good game.
I mean, credit where it's due, though. I mean, Fallout 4 on launch, though, I didn't find much in the way of glitches. I mean,
I think it's hit or miss for most people. You know, it's really these subtle differences that you'll have in a console. Like, they'll kind of do it because some people I've never ran into those issues outside of New Vegas. New Vegas was my game where I was like, oh my god, this is jank. This is so jank.
New Vegas was the buggiest mess on launch. I remember its first series of patch notes. They're like, we fixed over 200 game-breaking bugs. I'm like, did you finish the game? You know, like
it was pretty bad. I mean, 4 probably didn't have as much, but I think it still did. You know, I mean,
they were created by different developers though. New Vegas was Obsidian.
Yeah, it was.
3 was.
It was
Bethesda?
Yeah,
it was Bethesda.
Through and through did 3 and 4, and then New Vegas was through Obsidian. And I mean, there's always the conversations as to which Fallouts people think are good, but I mean, like from my experience playing thousands of hours throughout the 3 of those games, 4 had probably the cleanest release by far. Like, I only found one exploit that I can really think of. Well, no, it's technically only really one exploit in that game that you can sort of kind of abuse. It does what it's supposed to do. It just works.
See, and I'm really biased because Skyrim came out on my birthday, so I got it on launch. But Skyrim was a really buggy mess too. Like, there was a lot of not game breaking things, but like. Well, I mean, they were game breaking, but they were also playthrough breaking as well. So, like, you could do things that just make your character so busted. And you were level 1. Like, you could be level 1 and do this. And, like, there have been several playthroughs where I've just done, like, a level 1 run just to see if I could do it.
Really?
And, like, on Legendary. And, like,
Really?
just some of the game-breaking mechanics that are in the game that are just present is so ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, the leeway that I would give to Skyrim would be the fact that I mean, it is a single-player RPG. There's no real consequence
Right.
if you decide to make your character game-breaking, whether it be through exploits or just, I mean, through a build. I don't know if you would necessarily hit like game-breaking, because if you play on like the legendary difficulty, it can get rough.
Let me tell you how I made 11. That was like negative error,
Yeah, you
amounts,
can.
and then I hit a dragon with it, and my game crashed.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you want to use the exploits, but if you play legit build Skyrim on the legendary difficulty, I dare say you're not going to need much more of a challenge than that.
That is
true. Like, it will test you thoroughly, you know, beyond what is, you know, not necessarily reasonable.
Right.
So yeah, Fallout 76. That's the
Oh
game.
yeah,
That's-
I'm hyped. I'm hyped for it.
I mean, we've mostly talked about the games I'm excited for. Obviously, Black Ops 4, Smash, and debated Battlefield 5, and then of course, I mean, next year's Dooms. I mean, but that can be a much later conversation for this.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, but I mean, we've kind of talked to death of those. But those are the games that I'm definitely like, hey, this is where I'm spending my money this year.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely Call of Duty. It's definitely Smash. I don't know if there'll be another title, and maybe like we were talking Spider-Man towards the end of the year when it's cheaper. So
Yeah, sure.
What about you, Pence?
I'm ready for Red Dead Redemption 2. We talked about that already. But another one I'm looking forward to is a game called World War III. It's going to be on PC, made by a relatively unknown developer. I think they're called Farm 51. But it actually looks really, really good. Battlefield 4 is my favorite multiplayer shooter of all time, and it looks very reminiscent of that. I mean, if I was to look at footage of it, it almost looks like, man, is that Battlefield 4? So I've always been disappointed that Battlefield has taken their direction towards, older times, like with Battlefield 1 being in World War 1 and, this trash dumpster that is Battlefield 5. So I'm looking forward to World War 3. Hopefully that becomes a good thing. It's supposed to launch this fall. And hopefully that it fills that void that's been missing. Although I still, to this day, play Battlefield 4 a lot of times daily, because there is a very big population, believe it or not, still, because they don't have that modern shooter that's the last one that came out was Battlefield 4 back in 2013. So it's still alive and kicking. You can actually look at the stats online and see how many players are playing Battlefield 4 or 1 or Bad Company 2 also. And it's usually up there with Battlefield 1 as far as numbers, or just maybe about 20% less, I'd say. So
Well, I mean,
it has a good community still.
Yeah, the longevity in games and communities built around it. Like, suddenly we're in an era where, like, not everybody is going to buy that next thing. There is no guarantee for that, and I think the year-on-year releases is what caused this exhaustion of not only content, but people's wallets. Nobody, when you can get a game for free, like Fortnite, or you can pay another $60 for basically the same game reskinned, I mean, you might just stick with the game you're playing. And 4 is actually really, really good, honestly. That is the only Battlefield game I put a significant chunk, well, for me, a significant chunk of time.
Right.
Not really much considering I know how much you've played, but,
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I had fun.
I just think that they kind of shot themselves in the foot with 1, because, like, 4, like you said, I mean, it is a very well-crafted game. It is probably...
Well, I will say that when it came out, it was terrible. There's so many bugs. It was just a hot mess. But
I mean,
eventually,
probably-
after a year, they finally fixed it, and it's perfect now, and it has been for 5 years probably. But you're going to Battlefield 1. I can't play that game to this day. I tried jumping on. I was like, every single month I'll hop on, like, maybe if I give it a try now, it'll be good. And I usually quit about 10 minutes later and go back to Battlefield 4 just because it's so much slower. The weapons just aren't as fun to use.
People like modern. And
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's only so many times that you can shoot a Car 98 or a Gewehr, Like, there's only so many times that you can reuse that time period. People do want, things that are new, functional, and that can give you different gameplay. Like, all sorts of tech in Battlefield 4. So,
Because when it comes to like future-esque titles, your imagination can run as wild as you want it to be. But with modern, it's pretty much just a staple. You know, it's just like, this is what we have. This is what we don't have. Work with it, you know? And
I mean, you find creativity in certain genres,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
think you also can find creativity in the terms of how the gameplay works, you know, or the fan ability. I mean, Battlefield 4 is not an overly imaginative game in terms of its weapons, but, like, what about map evolution? What other game? I mean, I remember the first time I saw a storm happen. Like,
Carousel? Yes.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and
Unbelievable.
my God,
Yeah.
was that a moment? Like, I was like, dude, what
You
is
get
happening?
goosebumps.
Dude,
Like-
it did. And, you know,
Yeah.
and, like, so there is room for creativity, and there is room for making something that is superior, I think. But you're not wrong in terms of what is going to probably be in that game. You know, I mean, whereas, like, yeah, the futuristic stuff, you can go any direction, Titanfall, all those other games. I mean, not that if you don't execute on it well, it'll
Right.
still not be received
Right.
well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, look at Call of Duty going back on jump jets, wall running, and everything else because their fans were upset. I personally liked it. Now, I like Titanfall, so I mean, but I don't know.
I love Titanfall. Yes.
Yeah.
I could talk an hour about that,
Okay, easily. Just
but I'm not going to.
no. Oh my god! But yeah, Battlefield. I think they knew what they were doing. You know, they really did, and it felt like a comprehensive product. You know, and something that should and does last. You know, whereas like it feels like even Hardline that was so weird, and then one is okay. It looks good, I guess. But 5, while it graphically looks good, I don't know. Like, what is going to pull me away from that investment? And I don't think they've shown me anything that would.
Mhm.
You know, like, what are you adding that I don't have as an experience that, you know, I need to go to your game for?
right.
And I don't know that they've sold or delivered anything.
Nope. And they have not. They've also done many things that have pushed the original fan base off. And I'm not going to get into it just because, once again, I can talk forever about it. And I don't want to get this podcast political or anything because they're really shoving a lot of political stuff down in their game. But so we're just going to go ahead and go over that, just jump over that. But from a previous hardcore Battlefield fan, 5 just looks like I said, a trash dumpster fire.
Did Battlefield hurt you too?
It did.
I mean, it's clear.
Yes.
Hey, I mean, everybody has that game. Trust me, like, Mirror's Edge Catalyst. I was just so mad.
Uh-huh.
Dude, man, I played so much Mirror's Edge, and then I was excited. I was like, I'm getting the time trial. Oh, this game sucks. Like, just core design things. Like, how do you have a running game where you have to stop to do a little side quest? It's like, you know, you could put a code on the wall as I was running. Like, oh, you found this code. That's cool. I'm going to keep going. No, you made me stop to do this and then get shot at. I'm just,
I'm
just
upset.
bad. Just bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
See, the game that hurt me, the game series that hurt me the most, Jack and Daxter. So good. 1 was very solid, very good staple. 2 was a very, very good sequel to it. And then 3 was like off the wall. It was so great. And then Jack X happened. And then it just turned into this racing game. And it was like, what are you doing?
Mhm.
Stop! It was just such a bad game. And like, they hinted at so much for like Jack and Daxter 4 to happen, and they just had all these garbage spin-offs and just
Yeah.
Man, always count on a publisher to ruin something.
yeah.
All right, well, guys, it is now exactly noon, so we're going to stop the stream here. But thank you for all the viewers that, if you stuck through and watched the whole podcast, we hope, like I said, to do this once a month, maybe 2 times if we're lucky. But I really enjoyed our time talking about games, and I hope everybody.
This is fantastic.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
You know, I was gonna ask, do you guys have a way to contact maybe so maybe they could submit questions?
Yeah, we have
for
a
us?
Yeah.
Discord. We have a Discord,
Yeah.
guys, where a lot of the LANmark community is very active in.
Mhm.
Thanks to Bryan, he created that. And so if you guys want to join the Discord, we actually hope to get a person from our Discord server to join us once a podcast to help talk about the games and contribute to the conversation. So check out our Discord. I'll have a link to it. Other than that, any final thoughts?
No.
This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
This is
I
this is
look
cool.
forward to
I like
it.
doing this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Steve.
All right. I hope everyone else enjoyed it too. So thanks.
Well, Pence, you know how to find 4 nerds.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Trying to
I
think
didn't,
of
I
the-
didn't see what the camera footing was, so I was just thinking the entire time. I'm like, is he cut off?
Yeah, like, dude, I was thinking too. I'm like trying to gauge my chair. I'm like, I just like here, maybe here. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm